Howdy. Today we're going to be talking about aggregate supply. However, the economy operates differently in the short run and the long run, so we're going to be talking about the two different aggregate supply curves, in the long run and the short run. To begin, we'll look at long run aggregate supply. The long run aggregate supply curve represents potential output in the economy in the long run. Now, this means output possible if the economy is operating at full employment. So, in the long run, production depends on available capital, labor, natural resources, and technology. These are the non-price determinants of long-run aggregate supply, which means these inputs affect the supply curve for the long run. Note that all factors that affect the long-run aggregate supply curve also affect the short-run aggregate supply curve, which we will get to in a moment. So these four factors affect it. But what is the long run? Is it a period of time? How do we know what we're referencing? Well, the long run is not just a set number of days, weeks, or years. It's actually a period where all factors of production and cost are fully variable, which means nothing is fixed, and in this time, the economy adjusts to shocks in order to reach its potential price level in the long run. So, the long run aggregate supply curve is vertical. Potential output is not affected by the price level, even though in the short run aggregate supply curve it is. No matter the price level, long run aggregate supply will always be at the same output, the potential output, which corresponds to full employment that is shown in the long run aggregate supply curve. Full employment is where there is only natural employment and no cyclical employment, so there is no economic recession or boom. Now, just keep in mind, long run aggregate supply, no matter price, it's the same potential output if we were to have full employment. Now, on the other hand, short run aggregate supply. In the short run, the aggregate supply curve slopes upward. But why? This is because of something we call sticky input prices, which we will look at in just a second. For now, we'll just talk about what affects it and how is this different from long run. Short run aggregate supply depends on the same as long-run aggregate supply. So those four: capital, labor, natural resources, those along with these extra two, and these two they do not affect long-run aggregate supply. So short-run aggregate supply is also affected by temporary supply shocks and changes in price level. And if you remember, this does not affect the long run because the long run is vertical. Price does not affect potential output. And temporary supply shocks are temporary, so they do not last to go into the long run where everything is variable. So this looks like your casual, usual upward sloping supply curve, where the further you go, price rises and matches it with an increased output. Now, what are sticky input prices? This is what makes the short-run aggregate supply curve sloping upward and not perfectly vertical. Sticky input prices are caused by the price level of items changing quickly. So you go into a grocery store and you see that oranges cost more than they did yesterday. But the price of inputs, maybe the price they received those oranges, or the price of the labor of the people working there, does not change as quickly. Because it would take a lot longer for somebody to get a raise than it would for them to just bump the price on the oranges. So it's because these factors of supply are slower to adjust, as price level rises, input prices are slow, allowing for an upward sloping supply curve. So yes, that is the relationship between short-run aggregate supply and long-run aggregate supply. Thanks for listening.